Hello everyone, Jason here. So yeah, I did another video the day after. Like I said, I can talk about lots of things for lots of time. So I don't know, I might do this more regularly than weekly, but I felt inspired to do another one today, so I'm doing another one today. For those who are curious, it's October 9th right now. So two things I want to cover. First, the more politically, philosophically thing, and then something a little bit more actually in the realm of gaming. um, so, as I found out through one of Monday and Matt's recent videos of a Twitter post from Anita Sarkeesian of her kind of dissing on Gamergate in the same fashion that a lot of other, shall we say, more proactive, modern, third wave, feminist slash social justice warrior slash generally annoying people have decried it as. That made me actually really sad. One of the things I always liked about Sarkeesian was that she seemed to have a reasonably level head on her shoulders, presented things in a very logically thought out way, not necessarily in a way I always agreed with. You know, I don't always agree with the conclusions, like I tend to say. I don't like I tend to be. I don't necessarily agree with what people conclude from the information that they have to work with. But I do always appreciate the analysis that comes out of those conversations. So, and Sarkeesian was really good at this. Her videos, I actually think, are really good analytical pieces. As I mentioned in my last video, I think they do a really good job of identifying specific points where a feminist interpretation can identify some misogynistic elements in video games that also exist as a reflection of the culture as well. And now, yes, the analysis is limited within that framework, which I talked about frameworks a little bit in my last video. And there are other ways of interpreting it that are just as legitimate, but I do always appreciate the perspective, even if I don't agree with the conclusion. So I really appreciated Sarkeesian for that. And up until that moment, I was actually donating funds to Feminist Frequency. Yeah. So, but then I read that Twitter post basically decrying Gamergate, and I will, what I'll do is I will link to Monday Nat's video on it because he actually does a decent job in discussing that Twitter post and another one as well. And I've actually been rather fond of Monday and Matt's analysis, and I generally agree with his conclusions. Not always, but generally. Yes, there are people I agree with in the world. But it really bothered me. So after I watched Monday and Matt's video and looked over the Fem Frequency Twitter postings and, did a little bit of confirmation that, yes, that's what's there, that the context that Monday and Matt was presenting was accurate, and yeah, I was not pleased. So my next step, considering how offensive that I find that statement, I mean, yes, there are misogynistic people in Gamergate. There are misogynistic people among feminists. There are misogynistic people everywhere. There is misogyny in every group in the world. Now, I'm not saying that to dismiss it, but I am saying that it's not something that's unique to Gamergate, and it doesn't deserve the highlighting that Sarkeesian is trying to put in it. It would be more fair to say that misogyny in general is a problem rather than misogyny within Gamergate is a problem. Because at worst, Gamergate is on par, misogynistically wise, with pretty much any other broad social movement group out there. I mean, and my general experience has actually been that there's less misogyny in Gamergate than there is in most other places. Actually, I've generally found the Gamergate hashtag to be consisting of more open-minded, intellectually discourse-friendly people than I'm used to. Now, it's not to say that I've had a lot of experience online with this kind of stuff, and I actually opened up my Twitter account specifically because I wanted to engage in Gamergate dialogue. I did end up engaging in a few other dialogues, specifically specifically with the anti-feminist movement, and that was interesting in its own right, but that's the subject of another video. But from the dialogues that I have had online, just, over my 31 years of existence, and growing up with both parents being electronics engineers, believe me, I got into the internet rather early. Gamergate has actually been a very more constructive place than I would have expected. I'm not going to say it's completely constructive. I mean, there's people on Twitter who just expunge vitriol up the wazoo on Gamergate. It happens. I mean, there's really no way around that. That's gonna be the case regardless. But I've found enough really good quality and intelligent people off of Gamergate that I'm actually really pleased with it. So I don't feel that Sarkeesian's statement is valid, and there's enough people on Gamergate sending out the same message about journalistic integrity and dealing with conflicts of interest and anti-censorship issues that there really is a uniform message coming out of it. And I think there's enough evidence out there to support that, digging through both the hashtag and a lot of the commentary out there from, I don't want to call them leaders, but from some of the more active voices in Gamergate, that's really kind of the uniform message that's going out there. So I really feel like Sarkeesian dropped the ball on that one, and in a huge way, too. I mean, yeah, there's occasions where Sarkeesian has been kind of dragged into the whole Gamergate discussion, and I think unfairly, because really what Sarkeesian is doing doesn't have a lot to do with it. I mean, there's some aspects of it, and in regards to, how the people she's interact have been potentially influenced in ways that have been harmful to discussion about Gamergate. I mean, the whole issue with 4chan, I think, is probably the most prominent example of that. But I don't think Sarkeesian really has much to do with Gamergate, so I don't understand what her decrying it is all about, especially with the broad-based claims that it's basically just misogynistic assholes. Yeah, there's some, but the majority, not so much. So after I spent some time researching it and, confirmed what she was saying, I actually pulled my support for Feminist Frequency. That was a really tough decision because I really do believe that what Sarkeesian is doing is a positive thing. The analysis that she's bringing forth, though not comprehensive and definitely has its own set of issues, is a good step. There should be more analyses like that from different angles, from different perspectives. And her discourse has encouraged that to some degree as well. Just look at C.H. Summers' recent video about misogyny in video games. It's a wonderful alternative perspective to what Anita's bringing forth. And I think that's great. I think that's wonderful. This is the kind of dialogue that needs to be encouraged. And I see Sarkeesian as having been a very pivotal player in encouraging that through Feminist Frequency. But as I see it, because she's making this statement from her Feminist Frequency Twitter account about what she believes that Gamergate is about in a very vitriolic and poorly researched fashion, that's kind of an official Feminist Frequency stance. And I can't support that. Because basically that means that I'm getting shat on. That means that a lot of the people that I now consider to be friends because I have been involved with Gamergate are now getting shat on, in a proverbial sense. And so I felt that there was a moral conflict there that I had to withdraw my support from Sarkeesian because of that stance. You know, if that was a stance that she was taking as a private individual, you know, outside of the whole feminist frequency thing, great, I'm fine with that. I would continue to support feminist frequency. But she did it through the feminist frequency hashtag, or not the hashtag, the feminist for her feminist frequency account, therefore making it sort of an official stance of feminist frequency as opposed to just her personal opinion. Granted, I understand that the lines can get very blurry in that regard, but I still feel that one needs to maintain a distinction between one's activities, official stance, and one's own personal stance. Now, if Anita clarifies that she's explaining this as her personal stance, I might reconsider reinitiating support, but I'm still very hesitant given that there's that blurred distinction in general. So, I hate to say it, but I've got to put Anita Sarkeesian now amongst the same list that I do of other people that I had a lot of respect and appreciation for, such as Will Wheaton, which just makes me sad. And for the Will Wheaton thing, I will also link below about why I'm really bummed about some of the stuff that he's said in regards to Gamergate. I adamantly support Gamergate. I very much do so because I do feel that full disclosure is an important aspect of journalism, and that it's important to be clear about the relationships that exist, and if at all possible, to connect a journalist with a game designer in a fashion that minimizes those conflict of interest as best as possible. I mean, I don't necessarily think that journalism exists solely for the benefit of the consumer. I think that's narrow-minded and short-sighted. But I do think that in order for the consumer to really have the proper knowledge and understanding to make an informed decision, which is the basis of a free market system, which I'll get into in another discussion, believe me, that there needs to be a degree of openness and forthcomingness about the biases that exist from the journalist in regards to the piece that they're writing. Now, no one's going to get this perfect. You know, no one is going to pull this off perfect. That's just never going to happen. And I'm not saying that it has to happen perfectly. I'm saying, though, that efforts should always be taken to get it a little bit closer to that perfect ideal. In much the same way that any sort of scientific research is never going to be perfect. There's going to be holes, there's going to be problems, but that shouldn't stop the pursuit and the development of improving things and making them better. So that's the full disclosure aspect of Gamergate that I agree with. The censorship bit is a little bit more difficult for me because I don't inherently disagree with censorship in its own right. What I do disagree with is a sort of forced conformity, because I personally believe that a community or any group of individuals is at its strongest when it has dissent among its ranks, when the ideas of that group are allowed to be challenged. And this traces back to a lot of my feelings in regards to Nietzsche and Socrates, where sort of the core idea is that with Socrates, an idea is not worth its weight unless it can stand up to scrutiny. And in regards to Nietzsche, the concept that you improve by being challenged, by overcoming these challenges. And yeah, it's difficult, and it's frustrating, and it's annoying, and it's all sorts of other things. But any group can always improve its ideology, its positions, its dialogue, and whatnot through being challenged. Because the process of overcoming that challenge will make it better. I firmly believe that. So for me, censorship isn't so much that I have an objection to censorship in its own right, but that I have an objection to censorship that brings conformity. And in a lot of ways, that's exactly what the censorship issue that Gamergate is fighting against is about. Because we've got a lot of discussion venues that got closed down from discussing Gamergate, and so, partially I think for avoiding some of the hot button nature of the discussion, but also in some cases to create a uniformed message about how gamers are misogynists and all this other wonderful stuff that some of the more mainstream news outlets are pouring out. And I say wonderful in the most sarcastic sense, by the way. So for me, that is, I don't want to use the term thought police, but it actually kind of applies here, I believe. It's a method it's a method that is designed to present a singular message, a singular frame of examining an issue with, that doesn't allow room for discussion or dissent. And the singular frame is the message that a lot of the bigger game journalists have been putting out in regards to gamers being misogynists, and the discussion limiting part is closing down a lot of the discussion boards that would allow for counter arguments, for different perspectives, for different ideas to be brought in. That is the kind of censorship I hate. I absolutely hate that, because it goes against a lot of my own core ideals. Now, other forms of censorship I'm fine with. Censoring things that are shown to cause harm to people. That's cool. I'm fine with that. That is totally fine. Censoring things because the topic and the medium of the discussion aren't an appropriate match, I'm okay with that, as long as there's an alternative provided for that an alternative medium for that topic to present on. So, and yes, there's always going to be gray areas in this, but I don't inherently disagree with censorship, but I do disagree with censorship in the name of conformity. Because alternative ideas, alternative perspectives, alternative approaches should always be welcome amongst any group, and should be seen as an opportunity for that group to improve and better itself, not seen as a threat. Challenges are meant to be overcome to better yourself in. So, anyways, that's rambled on for this one for about 17 minutes now. So, that's the first point I wanted to cover. Second point, getting into the gaming bit. I have been playing Alien Isolation lately. If you enjoy scary video games, you need to buy this game right now. That's the only way I can put it. I very much enjoy scary video games. Some of my all-time favorites include Amnesia: The Dark Descent, Aliens vs. Predator 2 for the Marine campaign. System Shock 2. That was actually the very first really scary game that I played. And System Shock 2 isn't all that scary anymore, but when I was first playing it back in the day, oh man, that freaked me out. I mean, the ambiance created by the audio logs and the sound effects and some of the music, it was just, that freaked me out, So, and when I play scary video games, I have to do it in small chunks. There's just no way around it. I cannot do a scary video game in a long stretch setting. I have in a few occasions done it just because I've been in the right mindset and I've been able to grunt my way through it, but I get so riled up by scary video games that I usually have to play them in small chunks, like maybe an hour or so at a time. And then I take a break for usually several hours to calm my nerves so that I can get back into the game. But I love them. I absolutely love that sort of exhilarated, rushish feel of just, the absolute terror of the game. It's wonderful. And Aliens vs. Predator 2 on the Marine campaign did a wonderful job of that. I mean, the story was very enjoyable, very engaging. The game itself was very challenging, and it did evoke that sense of dread on a regular basis. That was more like the Aliens dread, the second movie. But the Alien Isolation, though, pulls the kind of dread that you see from the first film, Alien. that sort of constant, unrelenting, sheer terror that just perpetually exists in your environment because of how helpless and how alone and how useless you are. Now, with Aliens and AVP2 for the Marine campaign, the terror came from, yeah, you were a strong, tough Marine. You could kick ass. And you could also die really easy. You know, it's not that you were weak. It's just that you were only strong when you saw it coming. If you didn't see it coming, you were dead. Alien Isolation, and also the original Alien movie, is terrifying simply because you are weak. You are not strong in any way, shape, or form. Your only option is to hide and run away and cry in the corner. That is basically your options. Now, I'm not saying that I have a comprehensive perspective on the game. I have only played about an hour to an hour and a half of it so far. I've gotten up to the point where I've just now got the revolver. Not terribly far. And to give you an idea of exactly how utterly terrifying this game is, I have not even actually seen the alien yet. I think I'm close to seeing the alien. My metagaming instinct is saying, you're gonna see this thing really soon! But this game has successfully freaked me out so many times in circumstances where I was not actually in any danger. That takes a lot of skill. That takes a tremendous amount of skill, and I've got to hand it to the Creative Assembly folks for being able to pull that off. I mean, I've been playing it for over an hour now, and my heart rate does not go down. The one point in the game where I actually started to relax just a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, was when I got something of like a companion in the game for a little bit of time. You know, someone that I was actually physically with in the game space. And I'm trying to avoid spoilers as best I can here, so I'm being very vague about this. But this is something that does happen fairly early in the game, since, like I said, I'm only about an hour and somewhat in. So, and that cooled my nerves a little bit because, oh, sweet, I can screw things up and the alien might go after him instead of me and I'll have a chance to fix it and not die. That was the primitive part of my brain that was feeling a lot better about things because, oh my god, I might survive this. So, but still, it only lasted for a short time, a few minutes, that I was feeling that, out of the over an hour time that I've been playing where I had been almost constantly completely freaked out. Now, I'm not one who's really big on the ambiance of video games either. I mean, I enjoy a visually impressive game. I enjoy good sound. I enjoy good music. The aesthetics for a game I can enjoy, but it's not been a really big thing for me. However, in any horror game, the aesthetics is what will make or break it for me. So that's an extremely important part with those particular kinds of games. Because that's what builds the tension, that's what builds the fear, that's what builds the terror, is the ability to create an ambiance that you're constantly feeling like you're in danger, like you're constantly feeling like you're helpless, that you're under threat, that any bad move you make and it is over. And Alien Isolation does that in a phenomenal degree. Not only from the sense that it's a really good horror game, but also that it's really true to the Alien franchise. I have been thoroughly impressed with exactly how true to the Alien franchise this game has been. Not even Alien vs. Predator 2 got as accurate with the Alien franchise as Alien Isolation has. The visuals are like they're a straight pull from the original movie, which is very impressive because that is a very retro aesthetic, or sort of a retro future aesthetic in a way that has really fallen out of favor. So it's not an aesthetic that a lot of people are going to appreciate, but it feels right. It feels good. Right down to, the way that the cryopods look, to the aesthetic that you run into on like the monitors and the terminals and the lighting and just the sounds as well fit perfectly in with it. The one thing I've been phenomenally impressed though with is the music. It feels straight out of the original Alien movie. They've got those. You'll get these like high pitched, subdued chords in the music that is just like the original Alien movie, and it is this wonderful blend of serene terror. That's the only way I can describe the music. But both of the original Alien and Alien Isolation is it's a serene terror. It's wonderful. I love it. So I have been, just to give you another idea on exactly how scary this game is. Um, First off, little mechanics spoiler. The game operates off of save points, not your traditional checkpoint system where where you have like saves that automatically occur at certain points. There's a little bit of that, but very little. Most of it is you actually have to find a save terminal and save your game manually. You can't do any sort of quick save or anything like that. You can't save in the field. You have to find a terminal. Now, this means that if you mess up somewhere between one terminal and another, you have to go back and do everything that you did from that terminal to the point that you originally died at or failed at or whatnot. Shortly after I got the revolver in the game and I grabbed the key card and went into the room that the key card opens, and I saw the dead body of the guy that looked like it was in the comms room, and then I heard the really freaky alien-like sounds. I was so worked up at this point, I just quit the game. I didn't go back to the save point. I did not continue. I just quit the game. I could not handle it. It was too much. So, I mean, I didn't lose a lot of progress, but I did lose some, and I hate losing progress. So, my terror in this game superseded my annoyance with losing progress. That is one damned impressive game. If it can do that, I mean, wow. So, if you at all enjoy scary video games, I highly recommend picking it up. I mean, like I said, I've only played a little over an hour into it, so I can't, give you a comprehensive perspective on the entire game. But yeah, even just that hour, I think is worth the entry fee, and there's apparently many, many, many more hours to come in that game. So, anyways, it's been 28 minutes. So it's been a little bit of time, about a half an hour. I'm going to sign off, and those were the 2 bits that I wanted to cover today. So yeah, thoughts, comments, feedback, whatever. And all right, I hope you enjoy Alien Isolation.